Hi, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, depending on where in the world you're joining us from. Welcome to our latest installment of our Pitman Perspective webinar series, where today we'll be talking about all things MS Teams. My name is Shakil Hassan Ali. I'm the Managing Director of Pitman Training Kenya, and glad that so many of you can join us today. Looking at the list of registrants, quite a few of you from diverse sectors, across different industries within Kenya and across the globe. So karibu sana. For those of you maybe who aren't familiar with us and maybe joining us for the first time, a little bit about who Pitman Training are. So Pitman Training are one of the world's leading adult business skills training providers. We've been in the market for over 180 years. We've got over 80 global locations, two of which are in Nairobi, Kenya, where we've been operating for a couple of years. Over the globe, we train around 10,000 students every year across different spectrums of office-based skills training, from office administration, which I know a lot of you joining us today are in, through to accounts, business management, of course, IT, web development, and personal development. We offer over 39 diplomas, 250 individual courses, and we've got a fantastic learning management system as well. So we offer a truly blended solution. So whether you're working from home or you're working in the office and you need sort of that flexible training partner, we have the modes to be able to support your training needs across the board. So very warm welcome to you guys who are maybe joining us for the first time. I'm also very delighted to introduce to you our speaker for today, Thomas McDowall, who's the country manager of FITS Africa. FITS is a leading global digital services company, which has got an office in Nairobi, Kenya since 2018, which Tom is leading. Tom has been consulting in Microsoft technology for almost 10 years and is very passionate about helping organizations with digital transformation. So Tom, very warm welcome to you, and we'll very much look forward to your session, especially the demonstrations that you have in store for us today. Before I pass on to Tom, just a quick run through for logistics of the day. So Tom will present for roughly around 40 minutes, or even 45 minutes, time allowing. And then we'll move on to a Q&A section for the last 10 minutes. So feel free to raise as many questions as you feel in the Q&A button that you'll see at the bottom of your screen, and we'll do our best to answer as many questions. Remember, this webinar is recorded, so we will be sharing with you the recording after to share with your networks as well. So welcome everyone, warm welcome to Tom, and Tom, over to you.
Thank you very much, Shakil. Absolute pleasure to be here. I hope that everyone who's joined finds the next hour or so incredibly valuable. Hopefully you can now see my screen, and we can get started. So Shakil has already done a pretty good job of introducing me, so I'll keep this very brief. As Shakil said, I'm now based in Nairobi. Before that, though, I was based out of our FITS London office, working in the same sort of role, modern workplace consulting. And I've been working with a huge kind of range of different industries. So hopefully when you're putting your questions in the thing, I can give some relevant examples or anecdotes that might relate to your business. Before that, I was working with Accenture, which is a global digital services company, and again, working kind of a range of companies and customers, where really I was looking at how we can use technology to improve things in a day-to-day work. Today, though, it's not really about me. It's not about anything that I've been doing. It's more about what you can do and how you can become a super user for Microsoft Teams. So I'm going to be talking at first more generally about the idea of the modern workplace, and then we're going to go into what is kind of a big component of the modern workplace in our view at FITS, and that is Microsoft Teams. And we're going to look at three different levels. First, we're going to talk about being the essentials of Microsoft Teams. So how do you kind of keep your catch up, stay relevant, and learn some of the basics. Then we're going to go into how to be a Teams power user. So this is really about the game changers, the different things that you might not have heard of, but deliver on kind of the bigger promises that that Teams has so publicly been advertising. Microsoft's big message about how much this can impact your day-to-day work. And then finally, for those who really want to stay ahead of the game, the people who've got kind of an eye on what's coming next and how can I be relevant, not just now, but this time next year, we're going to go into a few of those super user type things as well. So we've done the introductions. The first things first is to, as I said, look at modern workplace in general. The modern workplace for us contains two different things. If we break it down, so on one side we've got modern. So what is modern? And we've got a few words there on the screen which I personally associate with a modern workplace. So it's got to be kind of flexible. It's no longer just about your 9-to-5 cubicle in the office. It's got to be collaborative and open. You're working with different people. It's no longer just you and your line manager or you and the person sat next to you. You're working across departments, across geographies, across offices. So it's got the modern workplace compared to the traditional workplace before is much more different. Mobile, collaborative, open. You're using data, automation, which we're going to talk about later on today. And then the workplace itself, what is a workplace? It's not just the kind of office building that you go into. It is everything that sits around that. So the physical desk you might be sat at the moment, the chair you're sat in. It can be the way that your office and your work interacts with your family. It can be how you learn and the skills you adapt and pull through. So the modern workplace as a thing is much more than we need to kind of broaden our horizons when we talk about that. And with COVID and everything changing about remote work, that is true more so than ever. Physically, you might recognize some of these about how you've been working over the last couple of months, and you might recognize some of them about how you were working last year. It is, as I said before, no longer just a desk and a computer. It is on the left-hand side there, you've got meeting rooms. It is sitting on your bedroom floor with your children or sat on a veranda outside a workspace. They are all the modern workplace, and the tools and technology that we use need to fit around those kind of changing environments and requirements. At FITS, we break the modern workplace down into 4 different parts. So we talk about, when we talk about the things that you need to look after to make a modern workplace excel, in order to really go to the next level of productivity, of employee happiness, employee retention, all those aspects of things that you might measure around what is a good place to work. We look at these 4 things on the screen here. So people, place, process, and technology. So people is being kind of hopefully addressed by the sort of thing we're talking about now: learning, engagement, skills, capabilities, kind of growing as a workforce about what you can do. Place, we've just seen some photos, the physical side of things. So it can be the temperature of the room you're sat in, the desk you're sat at, the chair that you're at. It's the physical stuff that impacts the way you work day to day. Process, we're going to talk about processes throughout this, and it's the things like when you find something you want to use. So as an example, if you're not using Teams today, it's how does your workplace enable you to find a new tool or something you want to do that can change the way that you work day to day, and then provision it and support you and make sure it is secure. So all those processes that take you from an existing way of doing things to a new way of doing things, that's integral to the workplace. And doing that right is really important to having a modern workplace. And then technology, which people like me who work in IT and technology, we always like to, or it's always perceived that we like to put technology right in the middle of all this. And that's a kind of fundamental mistake. If you make technology the center of your workplace and you focus only on how do I purchase and force everyone to use the things that Microsoft tell me are the best and will give me another level of capability, then you're going to drive the other things or forget about the other things and drive them away. So you need to make sure you're supporting the people when you bring in new technology with training. You need to make sure that the physical space, the equipment, the desks and everything work well. There's no point having teams and giving people asking people to do meetings on there if they haven't got an environment to do that successfully in. And then process, as we said, enabling people to provision these things is really important as well. So some predictions, these are some FITS predictions about what's going to happen over the next 12 to 24 months in modern workplace. So citizen developers, this is a concept of, instead of hiring IT teams and IT people to create tools and solutions and applications for you, the rise of kind of low or no code automation tools that we're going to talk about at the end of this presentation in the superuser section will mean that business people who have problems are going to start solving them for themselves. So you don't need to engage with your IT department necessarily, or with a coding and development team and go through long projects. You might just be able to develop stuff on your own. And then there's three others. So VoIP telephony, that is using things like Teams integrated with your phone to have it all in one place. You can make phone calls globally straight out of your Teams or your Zoom. All the modern platforms come with telephony products that you can integrate with them. The remote worker, this is a fairly kind of safe bet on a prediction. It's going to be sticking. So we've had kind of enforced remote working because of COVID for a lot of industries and a lot of businesses, and our prediction is it's going to stick. People have formed habits over the last several months, and when we talk about the kind of return to the new normal, or what's going to happen over the next 12 months, our view is that it's just not going to return to the way it was. So the use of physical space in offices that people are renting is going to be a different relationship, and they're going to look and feel different because they're going to serve a different purpose. And then finally, this is a theme that underruns all of this, the rise of the DPO. So that's the Data Protection Officer. It's a fairly new role. For those in Kenya, the Data Protection Act came into effect last year. I think we're still yet to see the real impacts on day-to-day work. But those who are already working with Europe or the US will be more than familiar with these. It's pretty much like for like with GDPR. And the United States data compliance rules are very similar as well. So we're going to see that role having more and more say over decisions like whether or not to use Microsoft Teams. There's an impact on where data is stored, how people access it and things as well. So we believe that over 2021, especially for those in Kenya and kind of East Africa in general, we're going to see more and more of that sort of opinion and voice in the room when we're making decisions. So that's our view of the modern workplace. I'm going to pause. I don't know if there's anything that anyone wants to do. So just make sure that as you're going through this, you are asking questions in the Q&A. I'm sure Shaquille will flag me down if anything comes up, but make sure you're posting some questions in there and we'll come back to them towards the end. We've got some time set aside for Q&A. So we're going to move on next to Microsoft Teams. Sorry, I'll pause there.
No worries, I'm just saying happy to crack on. No questions so far.
Excellent. Great. So now we're going to go into the kind of real meat of this, and we're going to go into some examples and then some demos to kind of show you live in action. And the first things first is Teams Essentials. And this hopefully should give you a couple of insights into, especially in the executive assistant role, how do I kind of stay relevant? If you're feeling a little bit concerned, you're not alone. People, when we surveyed our customers and our network around how they felt about their own capability in Microsoft Teams, there was a lot of confidence. You can see the kind of darker orange color there at the top with the basics of the function chat. that is because it's the simplest, and is, if you're going to roll out Microsoft Teams, it's where you should start. So if you're an admin and you're looking to roll out Microsoft Teams, it is a big platform. It has big dreams, big promises, and a lot it can deliver. But start with the simplest use case, which is chat, which is why you see on there, when we ask our customers, they come back and say, we're very comfortable with chat. Thanks very much. I don't need to hear much more about that. Meetings and presentations, it's a bit mixed. There's a huge amount has changed, and that's why we're going to focus on it in a minute. There's new features coming out all the time. There's a lot of development work being done in Microsoft to compete with Zoom. And some of the features you'll see being released over the coming weeks are direct competition with what Zoom has to offer. But you can see through there, as we go down the list, there's a lot more variety. So when we talk about integrating with external or third-party applications, usage monitoring, setting up and managing applications, there is not an overwhelming level of confidence. People feel very mixed about this. And we recognize that it doesn't matter who you are, what job you are, which industry you're from. There is a lot of kind of overwhelming newness to this. Part of that is driven by the fact that Microsoft Teams, if you're not familiar with it, or if you're getting used to it, it is an all-in-one product. So it's designed to be a kind of a platform or a workplace in a window. So the better you are at it, or the kind of more advanced you are, the less you find yourself moving in and out of Teams to other products. When you first start off, you will be using it just as a giant chat window. So you're just coming into it, sending some IMs, and then you're going back to your mailbox, going back to your calendar, going back to PowerPoint, Excel, Word, whatever it might be that you use in your day-to-day job. That's how you start. But its power, and the reason why people feel overwhelmed, as I said, is because it links all the applications you can see here. And that means people are unsure about when to use which application. So we've got a little bit of a guide to give you some ideas, and I should kind of call out a disclaimer. So these applications can be used in multiple different ways, and there is no right or wrong. There is a kind of design for purpose, but what I said about technology not being the center of things, the user, the person, is at the center of this. And if you find a way that you want to use any of these services that works for you, that's absolutely fine. But there is a kind of, this is a kind of a useful guideline. So I'll pick out a few examples. So using Power Apps is a team productivity solution. So it is not generally used as something that you would build and invest time in or establish to support you as an individual. It generally is about you and the way you interact with your teammates. On the other hand, Stream, which is effectively like a corporate YouTube, which we're also going to look at later on today, is designed to be an organization-wide. So it's not designed for kind of point-to-point interactions between you and your boss and the people sat next to you. It is supposed to be about a kind of company-wide platform, about distributing video content to people in a way that they can consume it in as and when they're ready, much like, as I said, YouTube might work. Similar to OneDrive is a personal application, whereas SharePoint is a organization or a team one. So you've got SharePoint, which is for sharing files with multiple other people. OneDrive is very much the same back-end technology, but is just a kind of private space for you to work. So all of this, as I said, can make it a little bit overwhelming. But hopefully through today's session, you can kind of start to see some things that you can work on and gradually build your own confidence in them. Starting with meetings. So being great at meetings is useful for any employee, and even more so useful when you're working remotely. And as the executive assistant role, being in conference calls, supporting conference calls, troubleshooting conference calls, troubleshooting meetings and the pressure that comes with them, it's incredibly useful to have kind of a step ahead on being great at them. So the first thing is, I've got 5 tips here for how to do that. And the first one is your headset makes a difference, or your audio makes a difference. Right now, you can't see anything over my head. I'm using my inbuilt microphone for my laptop. If my my wife was to walk in here and start washing the dishes, you would hear every single sound that's going on. So we're keeping it very quiet in the house at the moment to give you the kind of optimum experience. So my advice is, unless you are doing something like this where you kind of a long session and you don't want to have a headset on, or you're presenting on a video or something like that, for your everyday calls, invest in one of those 2 things that I've got there. So it is a good quality Microsoft Teams certified headset, or a Microsoft Teams certified puck, they're called, or a kind of a speaker. And the reason for this is that the software works with the Microsoft Teams software to reduce the background noise. So I can have one of these Teams headsets on, chatting away all day. My wife could be sat right next to me watching television, and none of that noise comes through. So you get a much clearer experience. It's much smoother for the people at the other end of the call. And the reason I'm telling you this is because no one else will tell you. You can't tell yourself. No one is going to interrupt you and say, I'm sorry, but I can hear loads of nonsense in the background, unless it's too bad, and by that point it's too late. And you can't tell yourself when you've got a good quality headset. So take it from me, invest in a good quality one. On a similar vein, about kind of creating a professional space, if you are on video, you can use background blur. So we're currently using Zoom. You can see everything that's behind me. If I put my hands back here, you can see them. When you're using Microsoft Teams, there is a button to change your background into a fake background or a blur, which is fantastic if you've got children running around behind you, you've got a busy office space, and you just want your audience to focus on you. Automatic transcripts using Stream. This one is fantastic. If you don't know about this, we'll show you in a second, but you can get automated transcripts for every recorded meeting in Microsoft Teams through Stream. You can then download that and you can translate it into any language, you can edit it, you can send it out. A fantastic tool that again we'll look at. Notes filing and detail filing, so a searchable history with everything that you had for that meeting. And again, I'll show you where this works, but if you take notes using the inbuilt meeting notes thing, if you don't need to worry about going and finding them later on or distributing them. They're available to everyone in the session. Everyone can go back and find those notes by just finding the meeting in their calendar. And it saves you a lot of hassle around, I'll take the minutes, where are the minutes, I'll upload them to here, then send a link. All that stuff is gone because it's just there in the meeting. And then the last one is changing what you see. There's a lot of new features, and these have come out in the last few weeks or are coming out, so you'll see them coming available. And that is changing the way that your screen displays. So you can spotlight on an individual, you can change it to a large gallery mode, so you can see 49 people on the screen at once, all those sorts of things. Coming soon, there's a few more things coming. So you'll get chat bubbles. So right now, you're seeing my video talking through this. You will soon see that Teams has an option to have chat bubbles. So when a message is sent, it will pop up and you'll see it right here next to me. So you can just be watching the video and you can also keep on top of what the chat is. There's also reactions. So you might see a little thumbs up coming up past my video when I'm saying something you agree with. And then finally, the overlay on top of slides. So you will be able to have my face if you wanted it. I'm not sure it would add much, but you would be able to have me looking like a presenter on a television. So there's the screen behind me with my content, and then my face kind of as a little floating head presenting on top, which for some people, it gives that kind of bit more natural experience than just talking over some slides. So I've talked about a lot of those things, and now I will try and kind of bring that to life a little bit for you and show you a few of those controls that I'm looking. So hopefully you can see my screen, and it should have changed to a meeting view. So what you should be able to see here is what is effectively a scheduled meeting, where it's the Teams superuser demo. Apologies. So what I need to do in here, just wait for that to update. Okay, so we've got here your Teams superuser demo meeting. As I said, there's a few features we want to call out. So the first one I'm going to address is the meeting notes that I said before. So this meeting hasn't been joined, no one's in it yet, but I set it up earlier. And in there, I set up the meeting notes. So this will be bound to this invite. It'll be in the calendar invite. It will be in Teams forever. And you can edit it before, during, and after the session. So I can come in here, and before the session, I set it up with a little bit of template. So set it up with the meeting minute. So I've got actions and decisions ready. And then I've got the attendee. So in the room, on the phone, apologies. So during the session, I can come in here and I can update with the actions that Tom needs to update the next invite. So that will all be there, ready for the session. If you want it to prepare, you could put kind of preparation details in there, or finances, whatever it is you're going to be reviewing into that session, and then save them for later. But what we want to do is actually to join the session, and then I can show you the controls. So just give it a minute to come to life. So what we're trying to do here is we're going to show you how to control the video and the camera, as I said before. So we had a few issues before. So as I said, when you've got your camera turning on, you turn on the camera here, and then you've got this magic little button, which hopefully you see if you're already a Teams user, which allows you to blur your background. So we've got a load of different options. Anyone who's familiar with Zoom, you can create custom backgrounds and set them up, and you need a bit of a green screen to do that. With these, it uses AI technology to actually set you up a fake green screen, and then you can choose an appropriate background. So if you're on holiday down at the coast and your boss calls you and he wants to have a meeting, you can actually set up a background that looks just like your office space, and you can have your Teams headset on, so you won't be able to hear the waves crashing onto the beach. You won't be able to see anything behind you, and you can pretend you're exactly where you're supposed to be. When you're picking your devices, so when I said about different things, so at the moment it's set up to use PC mic and speakers. That's what I'm using now. And as I said before, if you had any sort of noise in the background, you'd be able to hear it. So really advise you to change it across to a really good quality headset. And the same goes for your microphone and for your audio. It makes a real big difference in terms of keeping everything very professional. So the next thing to do is to have a quick look at the changing the things we see. So let me actually join the meeting now. I'm going to keep my video and my audio off to stop it from crashing the two of them. Yeah, this is because hopefully you can still hear me. If Shaquille, you can give me a nod to make sure you can still. Okay, making sure it hasn't taken over things. So just very quickly to show you how to spotlight. So you would find the people in the meetings on the right hand side, and then we have this option to spotlight me. So if you've got someone you want to keep an eye on, so either it's the lead presenter, and instead of it kind of jumping around between different people, or you want to watch someone's reaction to the content, you can spotlight them over here on the right hand side. But there's also a range of different views. Hopefully you get these soon. A range of different views. Hopefully you get these soon. So gallery is the traditional Microsoft Teams one you'll be used to, with only a handful of videos available. Large gallery is viewing more than 10. So you'll get up to 49 videos on screen at once, which was a competitive advantage for Zoom, but now it's available in Teams. And then together mode is something we use in FITS for social meetings, for interviews, for something when you're just a bit more tired. A lot of studies been done to find that those 49 bricks, or the little squares, is incredibly intense, and it also impacts your network. So what they've done is blend it into more natural settings, and the base case, or the kind of standard one, is an auditorium, and you'll just see everyone's faces imposed on a kind of natural view as if they're sat in an auditorium. So that does two benefits. One, it's better mentally, you feel much less tired after the session having used that mode. And two, the network impact is much less. So if you've got a low network, set it down onto together mode if you want to see people's videos, and you'll be able to see them coming through as one stream. That's it. That's the kind of meeting hints and tips. So I'm going to close this down.
And a couple of quick questions whilst you're on there. So when you spotlight someone, are they informed that they're being spotlighted?
No, that is a personal view for you.
Okay.
And it won't be to anyone else.
Okay. And on the meeting notes, is that visible to everyone attending the meeting, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect.
Yeah. It also notifies. So what it will do is it will notify in the chat. If you start taking meetings during the session, it will notify everyone and say Tom started taking meeting notes. And then everyone can contribute to those together as well. So if you have multiple people taking notes, they can work on the same document in parallel.
Perfect.
Okay, so we've looked at the essentials of Microsoft Teams. As I say, I think focusing really on meeting sessions. We're going to talk about integrations next, which is what I believe takes you from a basics user into a power user. We're going to look at the best built-in Microsoft apps, and we're going to look at some concepts or some of our favorites for third-party non-Microsoft applications. There are hundreds of these things, and there continues to be more. So there is now a Microsoft Teams, effectively like an app store, the same as you get for Android or iPhones. And what you'll find is that there are extensions that you've never heard of, apps you've never heard of, but there are, and there will be multiple examples for each of the different use cases. So for project management, for example, there are dozens of them, and we're going to talk about some of the best ones. And it's again about finding the right one for you and making kind of smart decisions. So three of our favorites that I think are particularly useful for the executive assistant community. The first one is Roby Meetings. So it's a virtual assistant, and it helps you find suitable times for meetings, and then it will go ahead and book those meetings with people for you. So you fill out a bunch of parameters. I'm going to demonstrate this in a minute, and it will then go ahead and book it. Remind, it's a really simple reminder bot, and what this does is you just send it a message and say, remind me to pick up the kids tonight on my way home from work. And it will send you a little reminder just before you leave the office, or remind me on Tuesday at 9 a.m. to give so-and-so a call. And it will do that for you. Really simple use case. But when it's all just there in Teams, it can be really, really easy. If you're in a chat with your boss, and he says, okay, remind me to do that on Friday, because, or remind me to send that to you on Friday, you can just tag the bot and tell it to remind your boss, and then it will do that on the day and time you specified. And then the last one, Daily Bot, so another chat bot. And this one is really about avoiding repetitive meetings. So at FITS, we do project stuff and we do development. And with those two things come a lot of catch-up meetings, checking in, making sure everyone's working as they're supposed to do, and they've got everything they need to be successful. We use different bots, but Daily Bot has been really powerful in allowing us to get rid of stand-up meetings. So we have a few from time to time, but we've managed to kind of slim those right down. And what this bot does is it just messages everyone in the team every day and says, what are you working on? What did you finish yesterday? What are you blocked on and need help with? And then it sends a little report to the team leads, and they don't need to get onto a meeting now to see how everyone's doing. It's a fantastic time saver. But there's some complications with picking third-party bots, so I'll quickly cover that. So when you choose these, pick the right bot for the use case, but also be wary that they are third parties, so they will sometimes come at a cost, and they will also have their own privacy, their own data collection policies and things. So make sure you read the small print, make sure you speak to your admin before you set these up, because many times you set them up and authorize them for the full company. But if you find something that's going to save your company kind of hours and hours out of the day, it's quite easy to kind of make a good business case for it. With Microsoft ones, generally you're paying for them already. They're already available in Teams. You don't need to do much authorization, and your data is already available to them, so there's less of a concern. So these are a really good safe space to start. Some of the ones we're going to do in the demo are Microsoft ones. But at Fitz, we use bookings, we use forms, we use Planner, we use Azure DevOps. There are a lot of them that we use day to day. So in the demo, I'm going to cover Planner, which is a task and project management tool. I'm going to look at bookings, and I'm going to give you an example of a chatbot, but just to show you the concept of a chatbot and how it works in Microsoft Teams. Okay, so welcome to my proper demo environment. So sorry, I couldn't do this with the meeting ones, but we are logged in as Karen, and she is a member of a retail bank for the purpose of this demo. So the first thing what we're going to do is look at Planner, as I said. So in Microsoft Teams, we'll let this load up. Microsoft Teams, you have extensions and add-ins that you can make available to you. And one of them is Planner. So to do that, you just go into apps down here on the left-hand side to search and find the applications. But we're going to start the demo by looking at the Planner web app itself. So for those of you who aren't sure about this, if you go to office.com and log in, you will be able to find your applications just by clicking this little waffle on the top left. It's a funny name for it, but it's what it's called. And you'll find, hopefully, Planner if you're on the right subscription with Microsoft 365. Most of them do come with it these days, so I would be surprised if it's not there. And when you come into it, you will have a Planner hub. So this will have all of your plans in one place, and you can see and click into them. You can go to a view where you can just see the tasks that have been assigned to you. It's going to take a minute to kind of populate those and load them up, or you can create your own new plan in there. But we're just interested in looking at this plan I created earlier. So it's a really simple card management or task management application. So you create your own little buckets for how you want to categorize things. You can add the people you want to add into them, control the members, and then you can just add tasks really simply. So it's super quick, and you can use it in as much detail or as little detail as possible. So this is quite a simple one, and you can create tasks, you can assign them, you can create subtasks that go with them that you tick on and off. Here's an example of a much more complex one where there's a few more columns. We've got some data and some media that's been shared. You can embed documents to go with them, and you can kind of really go a bit further. But this session is about how it integrates into Teams, and that's where, as I said, the difference between being a super user and a kind of the basic users, you start to use everything in Teams itself. So I'm in Teams. I've found my retail banking project management team here on the left-hand side. And then when I look at the canvas part of the application, I've got a tab up here which has got my project planner screen embedded. So I can do all the things I was doing in the app directly in Teams. So I can access this through the Teams app on my phone. I can do it on the web. I can do it on desktop. So I can access this plan and make changes to it anywhere I am. The next thing I said I was going to look at is bookings. So I'm going to bring you across to bookings. Let me show you that here. So bookings is fantastic for small businesses or for kind of micro businesses within a larger organization. So this example I set up beforehand is an executive leadership coaches business. So if you've got your executive leadership and they're doing coaching sessions for people in the public, then this is a great example. I've seen schools use it for parent-teacher conferencing. I've seen it, it's got loads of different use cases. You effectively use bookings, again, as a part of your existing subscription. Many organizations are already paying for it. And you set yourself up a micro business site. You can register services. So on this one, we've got an executive coaching session or initial consultation. You decide which staff members are going to be applicable for this. You can register your customers in there, and then you can create and publish your own booking page. So if I give you an example of that and open up the booking page, it gives you a really simple little web page that you can embed on an intranet or post on Teams or publicly share with your customers. And they can pick a service and then pick a time and book that slot in. You can do all sorts of things like make the slots as long or short as you want. You can create buffer times, you can book time off, and it syncs with your own calendar. So it doesn't allow you to book if the person in the business has a meeting at that time, it will automatically show as not available on the booking site. So again, how does that work with Teams? And what you get is a nice little application already embedded in here where you can manage those bookings from here. So if you're looking after an exec member or you're managing your own bookings, you might use this for a side hustle. If you're wanting to run a business doing photo shoots or something like that, you can do that directly from in here where you've got a window pane which will eventually load up. It's quite a data intensive thing, but what you'll see in here is the bookings schedule, and once you click the bookings, you can edit them, you can cancel them, you can send reminders to the person who made the booking, asking them to get, making sure they turn up on time and that sort of thing. Okay. So that is Microsoft Bookings. I'm going to pause for a second while things load up. Shaquille, just checking that there are any kind of relevant questions while I'm here on this screen.
No, none for now. Continue.
Okay, sounds good. So I'll come back to this in a moment. I wanted to show you Stream. I mentioned it when we were talking about meetings before. I'll just wait for this to pop away. So Stream is the YouTube view of your company. And again, it comes with a lot of your Microsoft 365 subscriptions and integrates into Teams. So when you record a meeting, it will end up in Stream. So we recently at FITS had a series of internal events. So we had kind of hour-long meetings with the whole company throughout the week. Those all got recorded, and now they're available to kind of come through and read the transcripts or view them directly in this kind of YouTube channel. This is not the FITS one, obviously, but I wanted to give you an example of what sort of content's in here. So if I go to Discover and I load up all the videos, what it will do is bring up all the videos in the organization, and I will be able to choose one that's particularly important to me. So I'm going to look at this one here at the top. It is about Outlook. And I can see who it's posted by and all that sort of stuff. But the thing that I find really useful in this is the transcript on the right-hand side. So if you when we use the example of a recorded meeting, if you remember someone saying something like, oh, Tom, can you make sure you take that action and remind me next week?
When you open Outlook 2013 for the first
time, if you remember that, but you can't remember which bit of the video or can't remember what happened next or what the action was, you can actually come here and search the transcript to find the exact moment where that happened. You can replay the video or the recorded meeting, and you can find the text of exactly what happened next. So there's no more forgetting an action or having to listen to an hour-long meeting to find the bit where something happened. You can just search it and find it straight away. You can then get exports of that transcript. You can translate it and send it out to people. You can share it internally within your company, like it. So when you're talking about building kind of internal content, it's a really good tool. The only limitation, and this gets asked a lot, is you cannot share externally from Stream. So if you record a meeting or you record a live event, and I think there was a question very early on about why we're using Zoom rather than Teams live event. There are some things that are still kind of in development and still being fixed. And this is one particular thing that can be frustrating. If you record a live event and you want to share it with kind of a public audience, you have to download that file manually. So download it from Stream. And then upload it to somewhere else to share it externally. Stream is only internal. Okay, so then coming back to bookings, this is kind of loaded up and you should see it now. So as I said, this is a great place to manage it. I can see the two people who are listed in the booking staff. So these might be your two executives, or it might be the people who are responsible for fulfilling a service. You can come in here and see the little bookings. You can see who the attendees were. You can edit them, cancel them, send reminders, all sorts of stuff directly from here. So it's a really good little tool that not many people actually use directly in Teams, as a lot of people just don't know about it. Okay, so then the third integration type that I was talking about is a chatbot. So you can do these and you can find them by coming to this apps button here and looking through all the different categories. So when I talked about project management, so when we talked about Planner, there are dozens in there. So I've used Rike, I've used Asana, I've used Planner, we use Microsoft Project, and you can see that a lot of those are all here to embed. For me, Planner is the easiest to get started on and is free. If you are a little bit more complex in your projects, then Monday.com is particularly good. It's a very good new product. You'll probably see it advertised a lot. They're pushing their advertising a lot at the moment to grow, and Asana are really good products. But if you want something quite simple, task management, then Planner is an excellent choice. So quickly, just looking at chatbot, Roby meetings, I mentioned before, this is a great little tool. So I want to get some help booking a meeting. So I just message the bot and I say help, and it's going to message me back in a moment and say, you need some help booking a meeting. Okay, book a meeting. And what it will do is it will come back and present me with another little set of options where I can fill that in. So as I mentioned before, when we were looking at the slides, I just fill in the parameters. So I say who I want to attend the meeting. So I just select, in this example, I've just got the administrator, but you could select anyone else, how long the meeting's for, and then I give it a range. So I want to have it either Monday or Tuesday next week. And I want it anytime from 5 a.m. it's an early one, till 6 a.m. Right, so it's going to check either Monday or Tuesday between 5 a.m. and 6 a.m. to look for a free time. I confirm, and it will go away, do all the hard work of checking everyone's calendars and finding a suitable time and give me those options. I've tried to shortcut without giving it a title. So stand up. And it will come back with the options, and all I have to do is click a couple of buttons and allow it to actually schedule the meeting for me. So I select the time slot, 5:15 to 5:45. and it will send off that invite to me and to the other person I'd specified before. So there's a huge amount of time normally wasted trying to find slots, trying to agree things with everyone. And that is a great little chatbot, which takes 2 minutes to set up and takes 10 seconds to use and book meetings. So I'm going to go back to the slides now because there's one topic that I really want to get to, which is around Power Automate. So we've looked at how to become a power user. Now we're looking at how to become a super user. So if I were to say to you, what is going to be here next year? What are the things I need to look out for to really be the game changer in 12 months time, not just now? Teams meeting rooms is one of them. So there's loads of new technology and tools coming out around Teams and the way they work with meeting rooms. So that's making them COVID safe. You can get notifications, and this is one for your IT admins. You'll need to set this up, but with the right cameras, they will actually look in a room. You tell the camera, or you when you set up the meeting room, you say this is a 10-person room, and that camera will actually alert people in the room and you as an admin when more than 10 people are in that room. And you can change that based on your safe working habits. So social distancing, you might need to make it 5, and again, that will configure and actually tell you when you're over the limit. Touchless controls allows you to start the meeting without touching anything. You can then also use Cortana in the meeting rooms to say, Cortana, capture that action without having to write any notes or touch anything. On top of that, there are content cameras, which is something that saves a huge amount of time transcribing whiteboard content. So what this does is it sits just above your whiteboard. You can see it just above the whiteboard on the left-hand side. And as someone writes on the board in ink, it transcribes it to a virtual whiteboard so that anyone, anywhere can see it as if it's just been written in front of them. It's a great way of having blended spaces. So if you've got someone at home who needs to be able to see what's being written on the whiteboard, you no longer have to worry about the glare on the light on the board or angling a laptop to try and capture it. This will actually take that content, put it into a digital whiteboard, and then they will be able to see from wherever they are. Okay, Power Automate and Power Apps is the exciting thing. It is big news. It's been around for a while, but is kind of gone under a bit of a rebrand and is finally being kind of used in the way that people were intending it. So there are some kind of inspiring or templates there which you can use out of the box. These are called Canvas apps, where they are ready-made, and you basically just do a quick bit of configuration, and you can get, for example, an expenses application built. You can get a little leave request form or any of these sort of things that then people can install on their phone or bed into Microsoft Teams. But the great opportunity really is around building your own. This is coming soon, so you will soon get a little kind of canvas for Power Apps, building them directly in Microsoft Teams. So not only will it integrate and do things with Microsoft Teams, you can build them directly in there. For now, we are still stuck to a web app. So I'm going to quickly show you Power Apps, because this is really where you can take really repetitive, time-consuming tasks and automate them quite quickly. So coming here back to my demo space, I'm logged in as Karen again, and I've come to the Power Automate application. So this again is visible from your app launcher, your little waffle in the top left corner. Come to Power Automate. Oops, just taking a little bit of time. So, and come in here, and these are my flows. So I set up a couple beforehand. As I said before, there are templates and examples that you can use. So I go to templates, we'll load up. And what this, the beauty of this is that for those who are really familiar with email rules, so email forwarding rules is kind of probably the prehistoric version of this. So those who've set them up before, you can set up rules where it says, if it's come from this person, then do this. So put it into this folder, or forward a copy, or send a high importance mail to this mailbox. This is like that, but supercharged for the kind of 21st century. So you can just take one of these templates and build something custom, but I'm going to look at the one that I created earlier, which is for an approval flow. So this is a classic example of a repetitive task that people do very often, and that is uploading a document onto SharePoint and then looking for help, or then having to go to someone to approve that document. I'm very aware that we are running out of time, so I'm going to show you how this is configured, and then I'm going to kind of pause and allow for some questions. But effectively in here, we've got the flow, and then you can edit it. This requires zero code at all. It is a drag and drop, and it prompts you. There's loads of help documents on doing this. And what you can do is go through and edit each step. So when a file is created, you post a message onto Teams and also start an approval case. And then if it's approved, then you post a message saying it's approved. If not, then you post a message saying it's been rejected. And then over here on the right-hand side, it sends an email to the right-hand people. So it's a really kind of visual flow. This might not be super easy to understand the first time you look at it, but it's just a step-by-step. When this happens, do that. Really simple and easy. And what this does, it binds together loads of different applications, SharePoint, Microsoft Teams, your inbox, and creates a nice, simple, automated flow. And I can see in here, you get this message. So, hi team, Karen Berg added a file and fits webinar file here. Please review the file and approve it as soon as possible. And then it says Karen has approved it with the comments. This looks great, thanks. So that is that. Power Automate it has endless things. It's about your imagination. It's about you finding your own issues and challenges and repetitive tasks and building them yourself. So I encourage you to give that a try. If today there's been some things you're interested in and you're looking to learn more, there's rollout guidance on documents.microsoft.com. There's also free training videos on Microsoft's website. You can follow people like me, so follow me on LinkedIn, but also take a look at our FITS website. There are loads of great people on LinkedIn, so I'm not going to try and claim I'm the only expert on this. I encourage you to find some of those experts and look out for the new features. And then the last thing you can do once you're feeling really comfortable is you can set up a custom Microsoft 365 Learning Hub on SharePoint. So your Microsoft 365 partner may be able to help you with this. But that's a kind of curated, personalized list of Microsoft videos and content to help you get some training and learning. Okay, I think I've just about got through the content. Opportunity to ask some questions at the end. Sorry for the kind of rushed finish.
No worries, Tom. Well, thank you so much. Clearly, we need a few days to get through everything Teams has to offer. So perhaps maybe some masterclasses might be in order, so we can deep dive into Power Automate and all the fun stuff. But thank you so much for taking us through, I think, very logically, just the build of the user case from the essentials to sort of Power and super user, and giving everyone a taste. And it's very clear compared to other platforms out there, whether it's Google or Zoom. I think Microsoft is very much driving a collaborative approach and integrative approach to all functions of how we operate. So I think it's fascinating stuff. So if I just if you kindly stop sharing your screen, I'll just put the Q&A up. And I think we've got a few questions that have come through. So I will just move it to the Q&A quickly. So in terms of some of the questions, so you mentioned about the correct headsets and the pucks. Is there a list of distributors or brands that you guys share in terms of the right specifications for those quality of meetings?
Yeah, so there are a handful of brands who you can generally just say if you buy it from them, then it's going to be certified. So Jabra is one of them. Poly are an example in terms of the kind of desk type devices. But we can happily share a list of the distributors. But the key thing to ask if you have a hardware distributor is just ask for a Microsoft Teams certified headset or device. It's very clear when the hardware is sold to the distributor or sold to you, you should see it. If you go on Amazon, as an example, you can put in Microsoft certified Teams headset, and you should find that there. There's loads of documentation online as well.
Perfect. And an important question that came through around security. So are there any limitations of having external guests not part of your company attending Teams? And is there security features that allow people from not gate crashing your Teams, if you're a team where you're doing a live event, for example?
Yeah, it's a great question. So first of all, your admin, when they set up your Teams environment, your Microsoft 365 tenant has to decide whether or not they're going to allow guests to join. So that's option one. The second one is that guests naturally come with less permission. So this is it's two things. One, it's a security thing, and it's two is to stop people getting away with free. So it doesn't cost anything as a guest to join a team or a meeting or anything like that. But Microsoft obviously wants to kind of tease you, get you to join as a guest and see it. But in order to schedule meetings, in order to do certain permissions and things in an environment, so create channels and stuff, you have to be a full licensed user. As an admin, you can limit what your guests can do. So you can stop them from posting messages, you can stop them from being able to add content or add files. So there's lots of things you can do to control the different experiences for different people.
Okay. And another question is, can you actually link in sort of or see a shared calendar within Teams?
Not yet. So you cannot see other individuals' calendars directly in Teams. So you can still do that in Outlook, but not yet in Teams.
Okay. Now, I've got a very cheeky question, which I found quite hilarious. I thought I'd ask you anyway. So you know how Kenyans love a side hustle? We all love a side hustle. If someone wanted to use the booking app without their boss seeing it, could they do that? I
think technically they would be able to see the bookings that are in the company. But if you are a kind of company leader, you might get away with it for a few months without anyone finding out, because they'd have to go looking for it.
Okay, great. And can you actually spotlight a person during a Teams live event as well?
You cannot, no. So during a Teams live event, you're the event producer. So there's different roles. The event producer, the person who is performing the role of kind of making sure everything goes smoothly, can effectively mix the videos. They choose whose video's on screen, whose content's on screen, that sort of thing. So in a way, yes. But then all the attendees, they have basically no control over that. They're being presented to as if they were watching TV.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and you talked about sort of all the third-party extensions out there and potentially having a sort of Microsoft Teams app similar to Android and Apple. That can be quite overwhelming. Have you got any tips of where people could actually start by just understanding what is the best app for their business or their pain point? Or do they have to read through that entire list and just like pick and choose an error-wise? What's the best logical way to do that?
Yeah, so the first thing I would say is start with the Microsoft products, because they're safe, cheap, free, and work with those. If they aren't meeting your needs, then you will understand a little bit more about how you use that tool and what it is that you're looking for. And then the differentiation will become much clearer. So you'll be looking for something that allows you to export or import into your graphs, or import data from a different view, and those sorts of kind of extended cases that make the potentially Planner or another tool unsuitable, and then that will narrow down the field. So I'd suggest that as one. Two, there are blogs, the amount of blog content out there where it's the top 5 bots for this use case. So just get searching and look at some of those things. People have already done the hard work sifting through the bad ones, so use that.
And I guess do FITs go in and sort of consult on that, so they can sort of identify sort of how the processes, the people, the technology works in it, if the company is looking to digitally transform, and you are able to advise on those solutions that best fit those needs, right?
Yeah, so we work with our customers. We often recommend applications based on use cases where there's a particular challenge. So we will kind of give suggestions, but when it comes down to solving a dire business problem, or they're looking for a real value add, we like to spend a little bit more time and then tend to look down the Power Automate or the Power Apps route, because rather than trying to take an off-the-shelf product to solve a problem, which can work, that's fine. sitting down, mapping out the problem, building something custom on Power Apps is something we find to be much more effective.
Yeah, and it seems like it's sort of infringing on sort of the more ERP sort of solutions that businesses might be investing in, because you might create some sort of workflows or technology for expense management systems or employee engagement, but actually a lot of these are now becoming available through Teams quite easily. So there is a sort of divergence or convergence, let's just say, on sort of a more techy ERP build versus a low code or no code build capability that I guess a lot of people within organizations should start being able to develop, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Great. And final question before we sort of close. You talked about stream and the transcription. Is that actually accurate? So could I actually externalize those notes, for example, from transcription, or utilize them as accurately as I need? Because I guess there's a lot of apps out there that claim to do transcription well, but we train a lot on sort of allowing humans to do that transcription.
The transcripts are.
Yeah, go ahead. Can you hear me, Tom? Sorry, I think we seem to have lost Tom. Tom, can you hear me okay on?
I can hear you okay. I'm getting notified my connection's unstable. Hopefully you can still hear me now.
Yes, we can, yeah. So just talking about the accuracy of stream.
Yeah. So it wouldn't be, I wouldn't recommend it as a compliance transcripting service out of the box. So it is more of an accessibility tool, or also supporting that search functionality I was saying. There are compliance transcript add-ons which use a higher level of quality service. We found that there's no real issues, but in terms of being compliance approved for industry regulations like banking, finance and things, there are third-party tools which integrate into if you're using Teams for your calls and conferences and that sort of thing, which you can usually come at a cost and purchase and put on top. But Stream is great for your kind of internal or your non-compliance related transcripts.
Okay, great. Well, thank you, Tom. I think, as I mentioned, I think if you'd be happy, we'd love to have you back for more sort of detailed sessions on what Teams can do, particularly all the different apps and the Power Automate function, which I think is fascinating. But I think that's all the time we've got at the moment. We've seen quite a flurry of questions coming in, but what we'll do is we'll pass this on to Tom. And if there's any relevant questions that we haven't answered, I'm sure Tom will send us through his answers, which we'll send through with the recording. So Asante-san, everyone, thank you so much for joining. As you know, with Pitman, we do provide training across the spectrum, as I mentioned earlier. So if you are interested in any specific training, do reach out to us at kenya@pitmantraining.net, or reach out to us on our number and set up a time with our admissions director. But Tom, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. Hope to have you back for more sessions. I think the questions do support a more detailed session next time, and we can definitely look to support our executive assistants there as well. So without further ado, thanks everyone for your time. Have a good rest of the day. Thank you, Tom, very much, and have a pleasant evening. Take care.
Thank you very much.
Hi everyone, Shaquille here from Pitman Training Kenya. Hope you guys are well. We have got some very exciting news coming up for you in the next couple of weeks on the virtual assistant space. So follow us on our social media channels and stay tuned to hear more.